Hi everybody, Sharon and Denise back here, travelling brush tippers on the road again. Look, there's proof, there's the car. Where are we, Denise?
Somewhere in deepest, darkest Norfolk.
So who knows, Where is this adventure going to take us?
We're heading for the wind pump, Horsey wind pump.
Oh, so that could be quite interesting, couldn't it? Bit of history there maybe. But something we do want to show you in front of us, we have this most beautiful, beautiful field of rape. What is rape? Let's have a look. Hi everybody, we thought you'd like to have a little look at the scenery around us. When we've been to the Horsey wind pump, we're looking at the old. We're looking at the older ways to manage water, manage the land, manage the wind. Now we're here, we're looking at something a little more modern, today's method of using wind. So just join Denise and I as we do a little panoramic around this beautiful, beautiful
And
Norfolk scenery.
The gorgeous colour of that rape. So we're going to slowly turn you around. Here we go. Look at that rape. Isn't that amazing? The sky's amazing too. And then we come around, and behind us we've got a modern wind turbine. Very good. And amazing skies.
Oh, the sky's wonderful. You can understand why the painters of old,
Yes.
the old masters used to come here. I mean, lift it up a bit, darling, and let's have a look at that sky. Look at it, look at that. Just incredible. It really is stunning, actually.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. And if you look down there, we'll show you a
We'll
close
zoom
up
in,
in a minute. There's a wonderful little church and something quite peculiar. It has a completely round tower, very unusual. We're
Quite
used
common
to
round
seeing,
here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Down at south.
Yes.
Oh, and here's a tractor. Let's have a look at the tractor.
Let's turn around. We'll see him come past. Here he comes.
Horsey in 1812 was very different to the Horsey you see today. It was effectively still an island surrounded by marshes with just one road in and out of the village that was often flooded for most of the year. Indeed, the vicar of the parish reported that he nearly drowned on 3 occasions whilst travelling to the church to give his sermon. The name Horsey means horse island, and it is believed that Horsey was originally a stud or grazing area for horses. Mortality was high, with insects carrying fen plague, also known as marsh malaria. With only 7 cottages and a small farmhouse, Horsey was not somewhere people wanted to live. Horsey today has significantly changed, having grown in size and becoming a tourist destination. With the land drained and a proper access road built, many tens of thousands of visitors flock to the area each year. The Norfolk Broads is now an attractive destination, a far cry from 200 years ago. And Horsey Wind Pump continues to stand watch over the village and mere, as she and her predecessors have done for more than 300 years. This is the minuscule room of Arthur Dove. He was the longest serving millman at Horsey, having taken over the role from his brother in the 1920s. Tradition says that newly elected millmen should be attached to the sails and go around once to give them a sixth sense. Well, this honour fell to poor old Arthur as he became the new millman. He lived with his wife in the nearby mill cottage, and it was his job to ensure the wind pump was maintained and sails adjusted when needed. During particularly stormy nights, he needed to stay on site and would have slept in the little room you see here. Dove's sixth sense was put to the test on the night of 12th of February 1938, when a northwesterly gale accompanied by abnormally high tides and a full moon resulted in a sea breach flooding an area of 7,500 acres. Feeling something wasn't right, he raised the alarm in the village to evacuate everyone, including the livestock, and fortunately, no lives were lost.
Really not scared, are they? I mean, look, how close are we? They're really not scared. It's your place, isn't it? We're in your place. And you know it.
So this takes the wind that's on the mill, on these, yeah? And it turns it from a big cog, which is the inside, and then that goes all the way down to a big cog you see as well. And that goes to a cog that goes outside.
Little baby.
So we can see out the window. Now, into a cog, you see it's under the water.
You're just curious,
See
aren't
all the
you? Oh, they're so beautiful. It's just like velvet. Hello.
The most famous episode in all of literature to feature windmills must surely be that which appears in Cervantes' novel Don Quixote. In one of his adventures, the Don imagines the sails of a group of windmills to be the waving arms of giants. This famous scene gives rise to the idiom tilting at windmills,
meaning to attack imaginary enemies or to fight futile battles. The word tilt in this context comes from jousting, which is precisely what the Don, his fevered imagination, is leading him to. He says, just then they came in sight of 30 or 40 windmills that rise from that plain, and no sooner did Don Quixote see them that he said to his squire, Fortune is guiding our affairs better than we ourselves could have wished. Do you see that over yonder, friend Sancho? 30 or 40 hulking giants. I intend to do battle with them and slay them. With their spoils we shall begin to be rich, for this is a righteous war, and the removal of so foul a brood from off the face of the earth is a service God will bless. What giants? Asked Sancho Panza. Those you see over there, replied his master, with their long arms. Some of them have arms well nigh 2 leagues in length. Oh, take care, sir, cried Sancho. Those over there are not giants, but windmills. Those things that seem to be their arms are sails, which, when they whirled around by the wind, turn the millstone. A poem by Linda Harnett. I'm sitting by a windmill. In a hurricane it seems. I feel that I've been here before. Or was it in my dreams? I watch it quickly turning, just going round and round. The gale it seems to deafen, the windmill makes no sound. I sit in fascination, my mind just blown away. I should be heading home now. The windmill makes me stay. To stay a while in solitude and let my thoughts run free, I'm caught up in the hurricane. The windmill's part of me. It now seems never ending, a bit like life, you see. Just going round in circles. The windmill now is me. Here's another little interesting snippet. James Edwin Saunders was a miller from Slough. He died in 1935, aged 91, after a lifetime spent in milling that brought him immense satisfaction in spite of once being on the brink of bankruptcy. James kept a diary in which his conflicts and consolations are recorded, mostly in rhyme, and one of his long poems sums up his feelings for his craft. It's called Music of the Mill, and it begins. There's poetry in milling when one's heart is free from the care that binds one's vision. Oft 'twas so with me. To a large extent, though, even in those anxious days, there were times when I had glimpses of its transient rays. How I liked to see good running and due pleasure found in the mill's efficient working as I walked around. When I went to bed, I saw it still before my eye. Still I heard the music stealing like a lullaby, soothing me to sleep and dreamland like an evening psalm, after days of busy effort, like a restful balm. Alfred Lord Tennyson was a past poet laureate, and he also wrote about the millers and their lives. And in this poem called The Miller's Daughter, he describes this man very, very well. He says, I see the wealthy miller yet, his double chin, his portly size, and who that knew him could forget the busy wrinkles around his eyes, the slow, wise smile that round about his dusty forehead dryly curled, seemed half within and half without, and full of dealings with the world. And Tennyson goes on to describe the miller's daughter in this poem, and it's the most beautiful piece of love poetry. He says, it is the miller's daughter, and she is grown so dear, that I would be the jewel that trembles in her ear. For hid in ringlets day and night, I'd touch her neck so warm and white, and I would be the necklace, and all day long to fall and rise with her laughter or her sighs. And I would lie so light, I scarce should be unclasped at night.
Hello, travelling
Morning.
brush dippers here. You didn't know that, did you?
Well, we were out and about yesterday discussing wind.
We were, yes. We had wind yesterday.
It was a windy old day. Anyway, we were out and about, and we were due to be out and about this morning, but it is persistently hissing down out there.
It really is. It's not nice at all.
So we thought we'd come in and chat about yesterday, so we can add it to what we found out.
Yes.
Because it was lots.
Yes, we had a lovely day, as you will see, watching through. We really had a lovely day,
Yeah,
didn't we?
it's fantastic.
And we were lucky with the weather, weren't we?
Yes.
Only just started to spit, didn't it,
Just
as we
on the way home.
were on our way home.
This all started a long time ago, actually, when we did the episode. Do you remember the episode with the seals? And we'll put a link to the seals episode in the notes. We stopped off and took a couple of photographs of Horsey wind pump.
Yes.
It was shut.
Yes.
It was a grey old day.
It was to use two lovely Scottish words. It was deur and it was dreich. It really was.
Wasn't it?
Everything was grey. I think the only thing that wasn't was the sedge grass and the actual red bricks of the windmill itself.
So we took this, a few photographs and thought, oh, that would be a place to come back to at some point.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was kind of bleak and beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah, do you know, there's something though, isn't there, about windmills and lighthouses?
Yes.
And I don't know what it is, but it's just that romanticism of a bygone age, and I'm in love with both.
Yes. Although if you actually had to live in that bygone age, it would be blooming hard work. Talking to the people there yesterday would be really quite a challenge.
Yeah.
So we decided to go back, and we both, before we went back, using the reference pictures that we'd taken, we both did a painting. So here is Sharon's painting of the wind pump.
Horsey wind pump. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your painting.
I knew from the minute I saw it and I photographed it that I wanted to paint it.
Yeah.
And then you have to sit down and work out how you're going to paint it. And my problem was that I'm not that brilliant with landscape art. That's more your kind of...
And I forced you into it with this brush dippers thing.
Yes, totally, yes. I mean, I really had to get over... I mean, this is a really important point, actually. I had to really, really get over myself because initially the fear is, I can't do this, don't like sitting outside, never had done, because, you know, I'd previously sat outside in all sorts of weathers and didn't like it. It's uncomfortable. Every time you pick something up, you drop it. Well, you learn how to cope with all of that, and slowly I found.
But it's always been my bag, hasn't it? It's always been something I love doing, and
Yes.
I was like, "You're doing it. You're
So
coming with me."
You've helped, haven't you? I mean, because it's meant that I've had to acquire the right equipment, the right chair with a hole in it so that you can put your water in there. Simple, stupid things like that. Otherwise, you're holding everything. So that's all very important. And then you look at the picture and you think, how am I going to paint this? And I don't know about you, but I always paint a picture the way it was created.
Okay.
So whoever your gods are, I will always start with the sky, because the universe was there first. And then our planet arrived, but it was a water planet, so then I would think about the water.
Okay.
And then the plants and trees and things grew on the planet.
Yeah.
And then I would go into, if
Structure.
there are people and structures,
Okay.
I would work on that.
I'm a little more pragmatic. I just work from the distance forward.
Okay.
So whatever's in the background, which is the sky.
Yes.
I start with the sky.
Yes.
And then I work in the distant hills or backgrounds. There aren't any hills around Horsey Wind Pump. It's incredibly flat.
Flat.
But the background, and then I will come forward. I will paint the object, in this case the wind pump, and then I'll paint what's in front of
do
it.
the water and
Yeah.
yes.
So that's just me. It's just a practicality.
Of how, and of course that's a very good way to work, because it means that your hand is always on the bare paper, so to speak, isn't it? So
Yes.
you're painting it. Otherwise, we can get into difficulties with leaning and scratching work that we've
Sometimes
done.
that helps. Bit of smudging,
Well, I did that with my windmill yesterday, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah, very cleverly. There I was working away, and too soon, I got that rubber out to rub away the pencil marks, and a couple of bits and pieces went.
We'll show you in a minute. We'll show you in a minute. So going back to your beautiful watercolour painting. Now I know your hubby loves this one, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yes, I think he's put his name down for this. Yes.
Okay, fair enough. There is a delicacy to it. It is absolutely beautiful, and
It's most unlike baby.
what it conveyed to me was just how still it was on the day that we went
and
there.
that's
It was
what I want,
cold, it was bleak, but it was still.
Yeah, and do you know, maybe that's why I found it that little bit easier, because the water was so flat and I was able to easily.
It's a proper reflection, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So when we were there yesterday, it was yesterday. When we were there yesterday, there was a little ripple on the water, so you didn't really see the reflection of the windmill.
Yeah, that was very different yesterday, because it was windier, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
But yes, I enjoyed it. I think my big problem was working out how to do the sedges.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to. I love, you know me, I love all this fiddle and twiddle and get in there and really do each grass. And I deliberately painted it smaller, so it's about A4 size.
Yes.
And I deliberately gave myself I did a vignette rather than a painting on a full page.
Or as our Matthew says, a vinaigrette.
A vinaigrette, yes. And that kind of reined me in a bit, and it meant that I had to be a bit looser and more delicate with it. So I wanted them to be not quite impressionistic, that's the word, rather than abstract.
Yeah.
And I did that with using masking fluid.
Okay.
And by putting them in when it was wet.
Yeah, so
rather than going in with a lovely little
brush.
tiny brush and doing all this. I behaved myself. Makes change.
Who are you?
I don't know.
Well, my
How about
painting was completely different. This is my painting. And I've been playing, I do my acrylic pours, and I've been playing with painting, I'm calling them my emerging series.
Yeah, that's good.
So I want things to emerge from the pours.
Sounds very posh, doesn't it?
It's not, it's just painting over a background.
Emerging series.
Yes, it has its own challenges, because I had to look through the pours that I had, find one that I liked, that I felt would suit the scene.
Yep.
Turn it around about 15 times until I worked out which way up it should be. Discard it, get a different one, come back to it. So it was all of those kind of decision-making processes. And then I had to paint it without going over too much of the original pour, because there is that temptation just to keep painting, and it's about stopping. Sometimes it's about not painting so much. And when I started, I drew it all out with charcoal on the pour, because then I can just wipe it off with a damp cloth if I need to.
Oh, that's clever.
So I just drew it all out with this charcoal, and then I started doing my process and painting the sky, and I just painted a sky and painted over the whole bloody lot.
Ah.
And I carried on a little bit, and I thought just that sky is too solid, too strong. So I work with the Atelier Interactive Acrylics, which you can re-wet. So I took my painting down to the sink, stuffed it under the tap, got a scourer out.
So you're working on a canvas, obviously.
It's on a canvas
solid
board. It's a canvas board. I put it under the tap, got a kitchen scourer out and scraped at it.
Oh!
Until I took most of the sky out.
I've got friends who would have kittens about you doing
I
that.
think I'm sitting next to one of them, if you actually saw me do it. But I'm much happier with the sky, because it was quite a calm, still, but quite bleak sky on that day we were there, wasn't it? It wasn't a kind of bright, sunny...
No, not at all, no.
So that was quite interesting. And then I carried on, but it was then a very conscious decision about not going over too much of the pour. So every now and then I'd get a damp cloth and I'd just rub some of the paint away, just so that the pour was still visible.
Do you know, that's a brilliant thing about the interactive acrylics, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, really, because normally we're used to using acrylics, aren't we? And you use them and they set, and that's your lot. So to be able to wet it again and to go back in, just have a little think about where that could lead you, and what you could do with it.
You're playing. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that's how I ended up with the painting that I've got, and I quite like it. You loved it, which was great, because you're never sure when you do something a bit out there.
A bit left field, yeah.
But you walked in and
I really, really like it. I like the freedom of it. And you solved just like that the problem of those sedges, because you've just given the impression of them being there.
At the end, I actually came in with a pen and outlined some of the sedges, a bit cartoon-like, but outlined some of them, so they stood out against the original pour.
So a permanent pen, presumably.
A drawing pen, yeah.
And that will sit on top of the pour, will it?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a pen. It's a Pebeo pen that they produce to use with their watercolour inks that you can draw.
Oh, that's interesting. So here's the link for that as well. Anything that's new is interesting, isn't it?
And knowing me, I think I probably threw a bit of ink at it, the watercolour ink at it, as well as the acrylic, because it's mostly done with acrylic. But no, me.
Lovely.
I threw a few other things in
Yeah,
there.
well, why not? I mean, once upon a time as watercolourists, we had rules, didn't we?
Purist.
That you had to, yes, it's got to be translucent and fine and just that loose quality of watercolour. And I don't think that applies anymore. We can add and take away just the same as anybody else, really, can't we? And the same applies with any technique we're using nowadays. Get that mixed media in there.
Throw something at it and see what happens, and then wipe it off again and put it back in again, and it's all good fun. Anyway, on the way to Horsey yesterday, we had a much brighter day. It was sunny and blustery, I think would be a good description.
I love days like that. Windy
Sky
days,
was amazing.
scudding clouds, blue,
That's a
and a
good
bit of
word.
sunshine. I love it.
Yes.
My favourite kind of days.
Anyway, we were on our way to the wind pump, and obviously they're historical, and they were built. How long?
18 somethings, weren't they?
Horsey is the youngest wind pump.
Is it indeed?
In Norfolk, I believe, but it still was built in the 1800s. And it was built to solve a problem. We met this delightful chap who was one of the volunteers, and he was telling us that the little village of Horsey, where the wind pump now stands, the church there, the pastor was based in a village down the road.
Yes.
And he used to walk up the bank and then go into the church to run his services. And 3 times he nearly drowned. because he had to get across the meres and the flooded fields and what have you. So that's when they decided to do something.
To deal with it.
Yeah.
For our foreign visitors, just to explain a little bit of natural history of the area, the fens are very low. They're low-lying. Horsey is actually below sea level. And the issue with that, once upon a time, Horsey used to be an island. That little village was just an island. And surrounding it was all fens, marshes, very wet, probably salty water, in fact.
Probably, yeah.
And it was decided hundreds of years ago that the land would be drained. So instead of it just being for willow, because I think that the thatchers used to use the the marrow grass, the reeds, and the basket weavers used to coppice the willow for baskets. And it was decided that it would be more profitable to use the land for animals.
Yes.
And so the water pumps, they're not windmills for grain, they're windmills to pump out water. And there are big ditches, aren't there?
Yep.
Big, big ditches all the way through the Cambridgeshire Fens.
And Norfolk.
And Norfolk. Somerset's the same.
It makes travelling around sometimes quite difficult because you get somewhere and you get so far and you come up against a waterway, but that's just the way it is. At least you've got
to work around it, don't you?
Something surprised me very much yesterday. They were talking about where Horsey drains to, and Horsey is itself only several hundred metres from the sea.
You can see the dunes, can't you? And the lighthouse and
it's literally metres, a few hundred metres from the sea. But the water gets drained all the way down to Yarmouth.
Which is how far for people? What do you reckon that would be?
15 kilometres.
See, that's a long way. Why? I don't understand why.
But I suppose it probably tagged in. They didn't dig ditches down to Yarmouth. There were probably ditches all the way along that part of the area anyway, and they just joined in with a ditch that was existing from further down the coast.
Yeah, probably. Yes, probably.
But yeah, it drains all the way down to. I suppose that's the natural drop away is probably most, because it's under seawater. You'd have to pump it again.
That's true.
Out into the sea.
Of course
there,
you would.
if you take it down to Yarmouth,
it does it naturally.
Yeah.
Just gravity and natural fall of the land.
So
it's very interesting. It's an incredible landscape.
Yeah.
Very specialist
Very
with regards to birds and wildlife.
Yes. What did we see yesterday? We saw. We're going to tell you about some swallows in a minute, but the rest of the birds. You saw a kestrel.
Yes,
came
indeed.
through.
Yeah. We think we saw a plover, don't we?
Yeah. We definitely heard.
We heard a lapwing.
Yeah. Did we hear snipe? No, I don't think we did.
No, I don't know. I wouldn't know a snipe if
But we
it jumped
definitely
up and
heard
bit me.
lapwing.
Yeah.
What else did we see?
Well, of course, you've got the larks at this time of year, the
skylarks.
skylarks.
They were beautiful.
Hard to see, but
hear
of
them.
course you can hear them twittering away because they fly up above their nests.
Trill.
The nest
don't
on
they?
the ground, don't
Yeah,
they?
and they kind of.
And they fly above their nest,
Trill.
trilling to kind of distract you and to lead you away from the nest.
So that was beautiful.
Beautiful day.
On the way there, we were probably only a kilometre away from the site, and all of a sudden we kind of just veered off the road. Stop!
Get the camera!
And we found some wind turbines in the fields just around the corner from it, and we're thinking, well, that's quite an interesting comparison from the wind pump, and then the electricity generating. And in this area, there's quite a lot of wind turbines, particularly offshore. We've got huge offshore wind farms. Yeah. So it's a big industry in East Anglia and Norfolk in particular. So yeah, that was quite interesting. We stopped and we were next to a field of oilseed rape.
Oh, the smell.
Honey.
Oh, it was just,
Yeah.
If you could bottle it and put it in a jar, I'd be doing it. The smell, it's amazing. Honey, isn't it?
Yes. And some people don't like it though.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And the pollen, of course, upsets a lot of people.
Does upset some people. The colour was amazing, wasn't it? And we had these really dramatic skies. You had this bright yellow field, the wind turbine, and then these clouds above. It was just beautiful.
I mean, it's eye-achingly yellow, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
It's just, needs sunglasses.
Yes.
So, of course, with the wind turbines, bright white against the grey sky
Yeah.
and the clouds
Yeah.
and that bright yellow. Oh,
It was lush, wasn't
Nice.
it? Yeah. So we stopped
Nice.
and had a look at that, and we were listening actually because we wondered, we got quite close and we weren't sure whether how much noise they made.
I wanted to know.
Yeah. So we stopped and we here's a little clip, but the thrumming.
Mm. Can you hear it, everybody? You can hear it going round. It was amazing, actually. It's that's nature's raw power being converted to something else,
Yeah.
and that, I think that's important to all of us, because although we complain about turbines, it is a source that we can pick up and we can move.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be that permanent like a power station.
Yes.
So, you know, not trying to be political at all, but just
Not what
saying
we're here. Yeah.
that, you know,
I
it's
quite like
of
them.
interest.
I quite like them because I think they are the windmills
Of
this
today.
generation.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't mind them in the landscape. I think we need them.
Yeah, I do too. We need something.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we got there,
Oh, how about the sandwich? We do like our food.
can you tell?
Yeah.
And they had, it was sort of nearly lunchtime, and we hadn't had any breakfast yet, had we? So we had a toasted sandwich, and they were some of the
little tea room. I mean,
best.
it's literally an outdoor
Shed.
isn't it?
Yeah.
With bench seats. But we sat down, decided to sit and paint, and thought that we'd have something to eat first. And it was most yummy toasted sarnie I've had for a long time.
very, very delicious. So if you need a toasted sandwich, the
I
Horsey
would go.
Cafe.
If you're passing through,
Yeah.
go. Go, go, go.
Look at that luxury hot chocolate. What could be better?
Looks rather lush.
It is rather lush. Look at the cream on that. And I'm enjoying every single calorific mouthful, and I don't care.
I'm just envious. I didn't get one.
Denise has been very sensible and gone for the Americano, no milk.
So,
Very nice.
yes, so we sat down and we painted, and whilst we show you little clips from us painting, or we were sketching more than anything, weren't
Yeah.
we? So, yeah,
We made a decision not to actually sit and paint with paints because we'd done that.
Yeah.
And because we were at a completely different angle, and that's another story, because this time, instead of having nice face on, you know, looking at the boat-shaped top on the top of this windmill and the oblique angles of the sails, this time, oh man,
full on.
we were around the business end, you know, with the door in the top of the boat and the all this complicated stuff.
Yes,
Oh,
some carpenter did a great job, is all I
yeah,
can say.
absolutely.
And the Norfolk Broads are fabulous, you know, where the land was drained, a lot of it does drain into the Broads. And the Broads were, I believe, I think we found this out last time we were around here, weren't we? They were areas where peat had been dug. So they had these pits and they filled up with water. And that's where the lakes of the Broads are. So the drainage ditches go into the Broads and into the rivers to drain away. But you know, the Broads themselves, where you come on holiday with your boats, was old peat pits.
I didn't know that, actually. I didn't know that peat was being taken out of the fens.
Millwrights built and carried out running repairs on windmills and drainage mills, and still do today here at Horsey. The work was hard and challenging, often in confined spaces and in bad weather. And the millwright's job required a range of skills, including draftsman, carpenter, engineer, blacksmith, bricklayer. And Horsey wind pump was built in 1912 by many parts from the previous mill that was there.
Okay.
And the bricks had to be shipped by wherry along the waterways.
Which is a boat.
Yes. And huge cast iron gears and shafts and large pieces of timber were hauled into position by hand only, using ropes, pulleys and levers. Didn't they say that the top part of it was 12 tons?
Yes.
So all of that was put up there
12
by hand.
tons, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. And Dan England was from a family of millwrights and had been in the trade for over 200 years. Not him personally, the family. But he was in the business for 66 years until his death, aged 80, starting as a millwright and engineer at the age of 14. But up in when we climbed up,
And the stairs were wicked too. I mean,
wicked steep.
Come down backwards, really.
That's what they said,
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
they? Yes.
Like ladders, really.
Yeah. But up in the top, now when we were sitting outside, there was swallows flying all around us, and at one point there was this feather, floating in the air, and one of the swallows just swooped down, snatched it, and took it back up into the roof of the mill.
For a nest.
I presume for a nest.
Yeah.
And when we went upstairs, oh my word, it was magic.
Oh, that
wasn't
was
it?
so sweet. I went charging up the stairs, you know, as
Yakking
fast as I
away.
could go, yakking away, saying, "You'll never guess what," you know, like this. And so this one up to me, shh, like this. Oh, it's wonderful. It was magical, wasn't it?
Yeah, the swallows were coming in, but they had no fear of us, did they?
No.
And
No.
they were sitting right by us, and they were looking at us as if to say, "Well, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
are you here?"
Male and a female. We came home and we looked it up. The male has a more orangey breast, and the lady.
Who likes orange? You like the men, don't you?
And the lady had a white tummy, and they were just sitting there, weren't they, talking to each other the way they do that deep 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 noise, and they're talking to each other and just watching us, and then having a bit of a flutter and going to. One was sitting on top of the board that we were actually photographing and reading, and then they were fluttering about. And they didn't care at all, did they?
No.
Just looking at us like this. What
And
are you
then a
doing?
family came up with 3 children, and again they were all blah, 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 coming up the stairs, and we just said, "Shh, come up quietly," and they were just like,
It's lovely,
enthralled.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
magic. They were a lovely family.
Yeah. And up in the effectively the boat area above us, we couldn't get up there. They'd kind of called them the stairs off, hadn't they? And up there you could actually see, just inches above our heads, you could see all the swallows going across, you know.
We saw a nest in one of the little corners.
Yeah.
So
So that was quite magical, actually.
it was.
Because normally you look at a swallow up in the sky, don't you, and it's this fork-tailed flit as it goes past at a million miles an hour, just chattering. But to be able to see them quite as closely as that was very special.
And they were definitely watching us as
Yeah,
much
yeah.
as we were watching
Yeah.
them. So that was magic.
I'm not sure who the entertainment was, really.
We didn't do any dancing or any turns or anything, did we?
No, but they were looking at us with fascination, weren't they?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Either that or maybe it was, oh, not again.
More of them. And when are they going to go away and leave us alone to raise our kids?
Yeah.
So should we see what else we can find out about
Yes.
the wind pump? Right, what else did we know? Millwrights today. The skills required to be a millwright today have not changed, but with the invention of electrical tools and modern cranes, the job has become a lot easier.
I should say so.
I should go. There are still 12 millwrights today, but the number is decreasing all the time. That's sad, isn't it?
That is sad, actually, because that's a skill that's just going, isn't it?
Yes. It's a trade that is at risk of being lost forever. And if you want to know more about Norfolk's windmills, there is a fabulous book. And it's written by a chap called Luke Bonwick, a guide to visiting and understanding the country's best kept examples of Norfolk windmills. And it tells you
Lovely pictures.
all
in
about
maps.
it, maps and,
Yeah.
and history of the mills and lots of information. And I know Luke, I believe Luke is a restorer.
Fabulous.
So if
Yeah.
you want to know more, that's a very
That's a
interesting
good book.
read, definitely. Okay, this is about the millwright. This is about Arthur Dove, the chap who was the last millwright who retired at the age of 80.
Right.
He was the longest serving millman at Horsey, having taken over the role from his brother in the 1920s. But tradition says that a newly elected millman should be attached to the sails and go round once to give him a sixth sense.
What? What, physically attached to the
That's
sails?
what it says.
Seriously?
This honour fell to Arthur as he became the new millman. He lived with his wife in the nearby mill cottage, and it was his job to ensure the wind pump was maintained. In 1797, Horsey was a wild and desolate place, known locally as the Devil's Country,
Oh dear.
due to its wild and
Oh
lawless
dear.
nature. The curate of Horsey, writing in 1784, noted, "All the low land from this place to the city of Norwich are very much hurt by often neglecting their Lord's Day and attend plunder and shipwreck and smuggling."
Oh, I say.
Well, that sounds quite
Bit of
exciting.
Poldark.
Yeah, definitely, yes. Enclosure and drainage in the 18th century was to do away with this unmanaged white wilderness, and a landscape full of animals, plants, and many of which are now considered rare. The land was drained and improved, but it spelt the end of the way of life for local people who lived here and made their living from the marshes.
Oh gosh.
Farming became easier, livestock was introduced. The sea, however, was always a threat. The sea has broken through the narrow strip of dunes on a number of occasions when exceptionally high tides and storms have coincided. These storm surges caused flooding, most recently in 1938, which is what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Only in the 19th century did the sea defences and land drainage become sufficiently effective to allow for the construction of roads to the village.
I mean, going back to when they originally drained the area, I read a fabulous book about this same thing happening in Somerset, and at the time the people rioted. I mean, they didn't want it. The people who were used to living,
They'd adapted their lives to work
Yes,
with the landscape,
yes.
haven't they? Yeah.
and you know, here were these government people coming along saying that your whole livelihood is going to change now. You know, they used to boat around the fens, and all of that was going to go, and they would be moving in cattle and animals. And the local people, the sedge cutters and the willow people, just didn't want it.
Mm.
And I know there was quite a bit of trouble politically about it.
Mm. Shame.
We don't like change, do we? No, most of us don't like change.
No,
So, not surprising, really.
but it is beautiful now.
Mm.
Whatever course it took to get there,
Mm.
it's a lovely spot to visit. And there are lots of windmills, and a lot of them are only accessible by foot or by boat. You can walk along towpaths. Sometimes it is only accessible by a little craft.
That's right.
Out the back of Horsey Wind Pump there is a chap who's supposedly very knowledgeable who does little wildlife tours. So you can get on his boat and he poodles around telling you about the wildlife.
And if you're driving around yesterday, I was nearly crawling out of the window because I saw the amazing ruin. So if you're arty inclined and you're quite happy to just walk across the fields to go and find these things, there was the most incredible,
It was a
dilapidated windmill, you know, with sails all kind of at half mast and the roof collapsed. But fabulous subject for a painting, of course.
Definitely.
And then you've got the towers, haven't you, which are the remains. So the tower is still there, but the sails are all gone. And I mean, in some instances, you can actually go and stay in them, can't you? If you
Yes.
look for Airbnb, you'll find them there that you can stay in too. I should think they're a bit pricey.
Rather nice though.
But rather nice.
Yeah. And we couldn't get out. I've got a picture from the window upstairs, but on some days, if there's enough volunteers on duty, you can go and look out the top.
Yes.
But we couldn't yesterday.
Because there's a walkway, isn't there, with
Yeah.
railings all the way around the top.
Yeah.
On that boat, the
The
lovely
boat.
bit where the boat shape is.
Yeah.
So
But gosh, we had a lovely day. This particular wind pump is a tower wind pump, they call it. And initially, the first wind pumps that were built all around Norfolk were called pole wind pumps. There you go. And it had a big pole up the middle, and the wind pump, the whole thing was built over the top of it. They weren't particularly tall, and there was a pole that came out the back, and if they wanted to change the direction of the sails, the millwright would have to come out, grab hold of this pole and push the whole windmill round. Yeah, hence the fact they weren't particularly big. And then somebody decided, well, if you just move the top bit, you can make the tower taller and catch more wind, and you can have more stuff inside it and all the rest of it.
that man needs a medal.
Yeah, whoever that was. So then they were built with, they were on wheels, weren't they?
Yes.
It was like a little railway at the top, and you could turn the top. And then they put the little sail at the back, which meant that it would turn automatically in the wind.
That's
like
right. That's that little round thing that you can see in our paintings.
Yeah.
The little round sail.
That would turn it. Obviously, they're static now, but when we went inside, you could see all of the wheel and the track that all of that ran along.
Yeah.
So that's really, I find that interesting. And there, over Norfolk itself, the county, there have been over 400 windmills built, but only about 200 of them were wind pumps, and the others were corn
Okay,
mills.
so they grow that here as well then?
Yeah, so it was, some of them were used for grinding grain, and the others were used for draining the land.
Fabulous,
In order to give them the land to grow the corn on.
Yes, well this is it, isn't it? They needed to do that.
Yes.
So it's interesting, isn't it? But here are our pictures. You tell us what you think. For coming and visiting us again. It's lovely to be back in the saddle, isn't it?
Isn't it just?
Be brush dipping.
Dip, dip, dip.
Yes, dip, dip, dip. Hope you enjoy this episode. Don't forget there'll be more to come because we're on our travels again.
If it stops raining.
If it ever stops raining. It's either that or we'll be soggy. One way or the other, we'll sort it out, don't you worry.
We'll do something.
So, thank you for joining us today, and we're very pleased that you were able to
Dip into our conversation.
Bye for now.
See ya.
Hello everybody. We thought that you'd like to have a little look at the scene in front of us, because when we're looking at the Horsey wind pump, that's old, isn't it?
Yes.
This is the old way that, we would have used wind to manage the land, manage the water.
Hang on, that's just started recording. How much of that did we get?
You're joking.
Did you not record any of that?
But I did ding it, didn't I?
I need to have a look and see what you dinged. Did you just turn it off or turn it on? It's recording now. We both ended up using pen and a water brush.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
we quite like
Apart
that.
from some people who didn't bring the right water brush. So I actually had to use a brush with a drop of water.
Well,
where's the water brush? It's at home.
okay. Well, I've got plenty here. We can take
200 miles away.
For me, I didn't take a water pot, so I had to use a water brush because I couldn't dip my brush. I bought water. See, there's the joys of not having been out for a while. You forget things,
This
don't you?
is live filming, yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.